Get on the train before it leaves the station. The truth train is coming, gonna run them down.
Hello there, everybody. All right, here today I'm just going to be uploading a little chat that I had with my friend Marc, Oddy. We were chatting over on my other channel about another topic, and then we got to talking about making a murderer and stuff. So I want to go ahead and upload here my little chat with Marc, a good friend of mine, somebody who I've been talking to about this case for a long time. He was very, very intensely into it for the first couple of years, of course. So it was just really cool to get to talk to Marc, period. But then we eventually moved on to talking about Stephen and Brendan and that sort of thing. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and upload, or, show you that little chat right now, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So now that we'll move on. Now we're gonna move on from Scottish independence, Brexit, and all that, and let's talk a little bit about making a murder in Stephen and Brendan. What's the most recent news that you basically think you've heard about it? Where do you feel you're at?
To be honest, I actually stepped back from it because I found that it was upsetting me. It was upsetting me because I don't like to see injustice in any kind of anybody being treated unfairly. Animal cruelty, child abuse, anything like that. It upsets me maybe more than it should, and it can sort of it can drag me down, I think.
Yeah, right.
And with the making a murderer case, I found that it was doing the same thing, because it's just like, for me, it's so obvious that those two guys are innocent. There's nothing really that strongly says that they could have possibly done it.
Right.
No, it's just it's ridiculous. It's and yeah. So in answer to your question, the last news I heard, I think it was when I spoke to you the other day, actually.
Well, I started telling you that stuff the other day.
yeah, that's it. I've not watched any of your videos for a while.
Yeah.
Obviously, nothing personal.
That's what's coming up. I mean, I'll explain a little to you. So, what's coming up is, first of all, Stephen and Zellner filed the appeal finally.
Right.
But just before they filed it, they were going to be filing it last year. But just before that Zellner decided she wanted to try to test something. So she filed with the court to get some bones that the state had said they had.
Yeah.
And she wanted to get those bones for testing, because there was a new kind of testing they used here in California during the wildfires. Testing called Andy Rapid DNA testing. It's a kit that's made by a company, and it's been very, very good and accurate at identifying people who were burned in wildfires and stuff like that. So Zellner wanted to use that on the bones in the quarry. Those are the bones that weren't in the fire pit. And so the prosecution was trying to say they weren't Teresa, or it wasn't proven, right? Well, Zellner was looking to prove they were. That's where she was headed with it. Well, so she files a motion asking to test those bones. Literally within an hour or two of the motion being released, to where we all were reading it, some members of the Wrecking Crew, which is the kind of a research community that has kind of developed around me, since MAM2 came out. Anyway, they immediately were looking in the documents and finding on page 1114 of the CASO where the state is saying that they gave all of those bones back to the Hall box. So all those bones were gone. Well, they had been telling Zellner in person and through correspondence that they had all of that, and all this stuff. So literally, we do a video that day going, oh yeah, these bones have already been given back to the Hall box. They're buried or dust or whatever. They're most likely gone. And so it was funny. So we did a video about that and whatever. Very soon after that, Zellner is filing a motion to She's violating. It's a violation that the bones were given back to the Hall box, because according to statute they should have been preserved, and the fact that they were then given back in a violation of statute is violation of Stephen's due process. And so now that's the current argument that's going on, and that's a big part of this appeal. But it's still got all the stuff from her original motion.
Right.
A great deal of it. All the stuff about Ryan, all the stuff that was on the day planner about him saying that Teresa had gotten a lump sum payment for the damage to the front blinker, which it turns out Zellner contacted Teresa's insurance company. They never made any kind of a payout. There's no proof of this and all this sort of stuff. So all this stuff, and then you got the CD that happened because they handed over the CD that had all the content from a detective that did a forensic analysis of the Dassey computer and found all the disturbing imagery and everything that was on there. Well, they handed that over right after the judge denied Stephen's original motion for post-conviction relief. That's the state then chose right after that denial to hand that CD over. Well, Zellner immediately appealed to the appeals court saying, we want to make this part of the record. It got sent back to, so she's been actually getting things added to the appeal as she's been going along. The CD, the state just straight up came and handed it to her. The bones, they didn't hand it to her, but she ended up asking to test them and then found out, oh, they're gone. So these things, so that's where we're at. And so next month on the 27th of March, 27th of March is when because the state just asked for another extension. So on the 27th of March is when their response is due to Avery and Zellner's appeal. And it's going to be interesting because it's been real fun watching them dance around what the hell to say about those bones. Mark, they've actually said at one point that they didn't violate statute because they gave the family animal bones. They actually said that in a motion as a defense to why they didn't violate statute and violate Stephen's due process rights. I mean, it's like they said that. You gave the family what?
Like out loud, they said that.
In a motion, in a public motion to the court. They said it. That it was most likely animal bones. Then why the hell are you giving it back to the family?
That case just gets weirder and weirder. It's just honestly, I mean, I know that we've obviously we've spoken about it before, at length and everything. It just part of it. There's so many things that are just so weird, so weird about it. It just makes no sense.
Right. It's bizarre. And who were the three? Who are the ones there giving the bones back? You got Deputy Hawkins, then you got Marc Wiegert, you got Norm Gahn, and you got Tom Fallon. Kratz had already been disgraced for his sexting scandal, so he wasn't there. But that's who you had there choosing to give these bones back to the Halbach family. I mean, couldn't have gotten with Fallon and Gahn and Wiegert, couldn't have gotten three guys that were more responsible for this to be involved in that decision.
It's the same as when it's been a while. What's the name of the guy who called in the plates?
Colburn.
Yeah, Colburn. It's like when Brendan got led into court or whatever it was. It had to be Colburn that was doing it. Right. just to rub salt into the wound a little bit more. It's just so dodgy.
Yeah, Colburn is. Yeah, he's got a lawsuit going right now, Mark. I don't know if you know about this. He's got a lawsuit going now against Netflix and the filmmakers, and he's trying to sue them for like slander. He's trying to say that they've committed libel against him or whatever and slandered him and this and that. And he's actually trying to sue. And that hasn't been going very well for him, but he's gotten a lucky break recently, and he's actually going to be able to keep his suit going for at least a little while longer.
What was the lucky break?
We expected a judge was going to throw out his case because he hadn't quite presented it correctly. He hadn't brought, I think, a certain level of proof or whatever that was required. There was something missing that, and the court actually gave him the opportunity to amend and figure and get that taken care of so that he was able to meet the standard at that time. Doesn't mean he's going to be able to meet the next notch on the ladder, which is, but so he's staying alive at the moment.
I'm not sure how he can prove slander, because ultimately, from where I'm standing, there's no opinions in there. It's all just kind of footage of him in court. So if anything, he's slandered himself. I can't. It
centers around them claiming that it was deceptive editing, and that things they showed. And what he mainly claims is that at one point in Making a Murderer, they showed him making statements he made, but out of order, or with certain things missing, and that's where they're having a bone to pick with it. And guess who his lawyer is?
Oh,
Michael Griesbach. No, Michael.
Oh
Griesbach.
My God, that guy is. He is so deep in it. Is Griesbach?
Mm-hmm.
I
call him Greasy.
God, I think he's a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing as well. Personally, I think he comes across as being very kind of benign. Benign, gentle. I'm polite. I'm this and that. I think he knows full well. He knows full well that those guys are innocent. Absolutely. Yep. I don't think there's any way that he can't. But
I think he started out like wanting to fight for Stephen and everything. And obviously Stephen got released on DNA and all that sort of stuff and whatever. But at some point, because he was still continuing to fight for Stephen, I think somebody got to him, threatened him, did something to him, because he suddenly went from, supporting Stephen and the bad thing that had happened to him, to then suddenly talking about how Stephen now could be this horrible person and probably did do all these things to Teresa Hallback. Like, just flips like that. Like, are you kidding me, dude? You're just sitting there just uncovering all of this shady shit in Wisconsin, and now you want to tell me that most likely Stephen's a bad guy? It's like, what?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any sane and rational argument that those guys did it. I've never heard one. And I was sort of borderline obsessed with the case for a good few years.
Definitely.
I just find it incredibly sad. That his mother's more than likely going to die whilst and his father probably going to die whilst he's still incarcerated. Hopefully. But he's spent. I mean, how many years has he spent behind bars now for
most of his life.
Yeah, for crimes that he hasn't done. I mean, the thing with the cat. I mean that's incredibly evil.
Right, it's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing, but
when we're young, we all do stupid, ill-advised things that especially as boys or men. I'll say boys. But we'll do stupid things, dumbass things sometimes. Just like a kid pulling all of the legs off of a spider when they're 7, or pulling tails off of lizards just to do it, or whatever. I mean, boys have a certain fascination sometimes with doing incredibly dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's ill-advised. Sometimes alcohol and other things are involved, or other substances, and everything. But I mean, it's terrible. It's horrible, but all signs show Stephen learned from it. If he was never part of a situation like that again, I'll put it that way.
And doing that, obviously doesn't make him a murderer. It's right. I mean, when I first watched it, I thought, well, those thoughts sort of jump into your head. I just thought, what if this whole thing was cooked up by somebody who really, really likes cats? Right? Well, we're going to stick him in prison, and then he got off. He ended up coming out on the DNA evidence. It's like, right, well, let's get him back in there.
Right.
Some hardcore cat lover.
Right.
It's awful.
That's
I mean,
funny.
what happens with Brendan now? Because I mean, that was so dodgy.
Okay, so what happened there
Oh,
is you remember Judge Duffin obviously's decision where he
that
ordered
guy.
Brendan released,
Mm.
but the state eventually filed emergency this and that and whatever and appealed it to the Seventh Circuit. They made an emergency appeal to keep Brendan in while the appeal was pending instead of him getting released like what was about to happen. I mean, he was literally like Brendan was at one point 15 hours from being released before the state was able to do its emergency little maneuvers and stop it.
Mm.
So
I mean, that's awful.
Yeah. So then it goes to before a 3-judge panel there at the Seventh Circuit Court, and Brendan wins 2-1. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is Brendan released? No. The state appeals for what's called an en-banc review. And that is where all of the judges from the Seventh Circuit get together, hear the case, and make a decision. It was determined that while that decision was being made, Brendan would not be released. Mm-hmm. So then it goes before the 7 judges, and Brendan ends up losing 3-4, with one judge mysteriously retiring just before the en-banc was convened. And judging by things that judge has said in the press since then, it looks like he would have likely gone Brendan's way. A tie would have gone in Brendan's favor because he had already won twice previously. And so it's all very, very, very shady in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, but all that did get Brendan a lot of attention because they did then appeal to SCOTUS. And something you don't know about SCOTUS or the Supreme Court of the United States, generally when people appeal for what's called cert, or that's just basically you're asking for permission to put something before the court. At that point in time, you don't usually get a lot of friends of the court or what they call amicus briefs. But when Brendan filed for his cert, he got 6 of them. 6 different entities that are all in have a vested interest in juvenile and criminal justice. 6 different agencies wrote amicus briefs in support.
Yeah.
Supreme Court denied him. So we are all beside ourselves just going, what the hell? You know, they probably took some corporate law case to help make some rich bastards richer. Thanks.
It strikes me that the thing that is obvious, I think, is that this goes very, very high. You know, it's a lot higher than people would care to imagine it, and it's quite scary, I think, really. I mean, like, you know, as I said to you before, and you know, and you've, you know, you really like this, you know, the phrase is, you know, all compasses point north.
Yeah.
You know, they're all covering each other's backs. You know, they're all kind of like, they're all in it together, aren't they? And it's scary to think that, you know, that they can get away with what they get away with.
Right.
I mean, I've said before that you know, watching Making a Murderer, it made me sort of quite proud to be British, really, because our system's completely different. You know, like for example, we don't have prosecutors like you guys have got. It's not like, you know, it goes to this guy, you know, and he decides it. We have the Crown Prosecution Service,
right,
and they're all kind of anonymous. You know, like, well, you don't know who that is. You know, so it's like, I just think that although our system isn't perfect,
I
just think it's a lot less likely over here to have a serious miscarriage of justice. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it certainly will, but I think that there's this kind of overriding kind of respect and fear of the crown. And by the crown, I don't mean like the thing that the Queen, you know, puts on her head. Right. You know, I mean, you know, the crown being, you know, the entity that is the royal family. Yeah. And, you know, it's almost this sort of like that the Queen is kind of like the judge of it all, if you know what I mean. And it's basically what it represents. Right. And whilst I'm not the biggest fan of the royal family, And certainly, you know, some of the shady stuff that they get up to. It's more the sort of this kind of deference to the crown as a almost like a kind of like a supernatural sort of entity that must not be messed with, you know, and that things to do with the law and justice and things like that, you know, that no one's above the law, and you know, and that justice must be seen to be done. Whereas in America, I get the impression that a lot of it's about money. You know, like, I mean, you know, like the ironic thing is it's called the land of the free.
Right.
Yeah, America's got the highest rate of incarceration in the entire world.
Yeah.
But both by number and by percentage. You know, if it's number of percentage of incarcerated people, the highest of any country in the entire world. Right. And then, I mean, I don't know if you ever looked into that thing with the private prisons. You know, there's a big scandal.
Right. Well, I know about some scandals with some of them. Yeah.
You know, basically, some young kid got set down, and he ended up killing himself. And his mother, you know, fought for justice, and it turned out that the judge was taking bribes from some guy who had a private prison. Mm-hmm. And just the very idea of having a private prison is just, for me, is utterly
it's essentially
crazy.
Slavery.
It's crazy, because the thing is, no matter which way you look at it, the only thing that's ever going to lead to is more and more people in prison, because you're going to get lobbyists that are going to be lobbying for tougher sentences.
More slaves. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that, you know, when I heard about the private prison, it's just horrendous. It's like, you know, if you own a hotel, you know, you're going to want your hotel full, aren't you? If you own private prisons, you're going to want more people in that private prison, so you can build another one and fill that. It's just, I think it should be illegal. I don't even see how that's even a thing. I mean, I'm not a socialist, but certain things I believe should be absolutely, like, I think it should be illegal to profit from. So, for example, very, very basic things such as clean, fresh water. I think that, you know, say for example, like in the medical industry, we've got the NHS over here, which I personally think is a brilliant thing. Mm-hmm. You know, you guys are all private, and you know, but you
ours
see,
is a mess, dude. So anyway,
yeah. But I mean, you know, you see these things, you know, over there where it's like, you know, you see like a breakdown of someone's bill, you know, if they've had an operation or something, and it's like, you know, they charge for every little thing, you know. So if they use swabs, you know, they're getting charged, you know, $30-50 for a swab.
Yeah,
it's like, come on. But once you've got the monopoly on something like that, then, you know, you can't. It's like over here, right? If you get a prescription, it costs you something like £6. So I don't know, $10, something like that. But that's like a flat sort of a fee.
Right.
Okay. But say if you get like paracetamol. I mean, I don't know if do you call them paracetamol over there? Like a basic painkiller, like a basic painkiller.
Okay.
Right. You
like
can buy
ibuprofen
those
here. Okay. Yeah.
Ibuprofen here is more of like an anti-inflammatory.
Well, yeah.
But paracetamol, it's just like a standard kind of painkiller. You take it if you got, you know, any form of mild pain. And you know, I saw this thing posted on Facebook, and it was like, you know, if you go to the if you go to the doctors, you know, and you just need paracetamol, don't get them from the doctors, because they cost them like 32 pence, so, you know, 50 cents. You know, if you just go to the pharmacy and buy them yourself, whereas it costs the NHS something like £10 or something ridiculous. And I thought to myself, well, how is that even possible? Because if they can be produced for so much less to be sold at a pharmacy for 32p, then how aren't the NHS getting them for cheaper than that? You know, there's something dodgy going on there, where somebody's obviously monopolized the supply of certain things, and it's just, you know, I think that, again, I think that should be illegal. And anything where there's where it's a critical thing. Like I said, water, health, justice, anything to do with justice, prisons should be illegal to profit from them, because the moment you allow people to do that, you just got a literal nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Private prisons are something that should not have ever been, should never have happened. It's, that's a slippery slope. And to wrap up, really, with this discussion, I mean, that's one thing about liberty. Some people think liberty means getting Big Brother to create liberty, and that's not really the way liberty works. To have liberty, it requires a society of people that are willing to be a little more rough and tumble and roll with the punches, so that you don't have to create more legislation and create more laws to try to govern yourselves. Because that's where the slippery slope is. By creating all those more laws and more things to govern yourself, you're hemming yourself in. You're giving Big Brother more power to hem you into a smaller fishbowl, essentially. It's something we all have to be mindful of. Obviously, liberty's good, but liberty also requires responsibility. It's not just something you just take advantage of.
Absolutely. I mean, over here they call that the nanny state. Where they're basically sort of trying to make more laws for this, more laws for that. You can't say this, you can't, Right. And I'm against that. I'm all for sort of personal responsibility, because the less freedom you take away from people, the less they have to think for themselves, and therefore, the less and less personal responsibility that they're going to take for anything that ever happens. And I think that's a very, very bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right. Well, it's been brilliant talking with you today. I have another live coming up in about a half an hour. So, thank you for being here.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure anytime.
Yeah. We'll have to get you over with me and get me and Paul and Marc Hodnott for a chat over on the other channel. And we'll talk MAM one of these days here coming up. So
no problem at all, buddy. It's my pleasure.
On, buddy. I know Paul has actually been looking forward to having a chat with you anyway, because he likes you too. So anyway,
he's a good guy.
So, all right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Our little talk, dual talk. Scottish independence. And Stephen and Brendan. What a combo. So, all right. If you guys haven't already, please hit subscribe. Make your way on over to my other channel, where I'm going to be talking with Magilla 39 and Paul Capaldi. We're going to be talking about Brendan's jeans. We're going to be talking about a few other little things that Magilla has come up with in the last week. So go over there and join us for that live in about a half an hour. Thank you for being here, Marc. And
no problem. Take care, my friend. Goodbye, all.
And goodbye, everybody. Okay, so there it is, folks. My chat with my good friend Marc Oddy. We are going to be having Marc on at a later date. Obviously, more on my Doctor Who channel, where we'll be talking about the subject of Scotland and England and some of the things going on over there in the UK. But we'll also be having Marc over here on the Making a Murderer channel to go ahead and talk a little bit about Stephen and Brendan as well. I'm going to also get him on with Marc and Paul and Marc Hodnott and Paul and I, and possibly maybe even, someone else. And we're going to go ahead and have a chat over on the Doctor Who channel about some things, some international things, some things that become apparent when you learn, when you look at things internationally in the perspective of a worldview. So anyways, you guys can see that's cryptic maybe, but it'll become clear when the day comes. So anyway, that was my chat with my good friend Marc, and we look forward to seeing him again in the future. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.